Hey, I'm Seth Johnson with Land House, and you are watching the Playhouse Build Series. In this video, we are installing the walls of the playhouse. I hope you enjoy. To get started on the walls of the playhouse, I'm going to take 7 2x4s, 8 foot long, up on top of the platform here, and to cut them down to 6 foot. I need to cut 5 of the 7 boards at 6 foot. So I'm just going to measure out here. And just going to be using my circular saw to make this cut here. The next step is to lay out the 2 8-foot boards that are left side by side. We're going to be marking these for stud location. I'm going to lay out my tape measure on one of the boards. And then I'm going to mark at 1.5 inches, and that's going to be where the end stud is going to be. I'm going to head over to the 2 foot mark. Now the 2 foot mark is the center point of that next stud. So I actually want to come back 3/4 of an inch and also move forward 3/4 of an inch. And that's going to be the placement of the next stud so that the center there is at the 2 foot mark. So I can just take my speed square across both boards and make sure that I mark that. And just make sure your boards are matched up at the end. I'm just going to keep making that mark here. So at 4 foot is going to be the center mark. So come 3/4 of an inch and then 3/4 of an inch. And I'm just going to head on down the line and continue to make these marks for where the studs are going to go. Space is a little bit limited up here. I'm going to remove one of these boards just off to the side. And I'm going to take this board and I'm going to bring it back here a couple of feet. And then take my 6-foot boards and lay them out accordingly to where my stud markers were just made. Now I'm just going to match up my stud board here with the markings that were made. And I'm going to be using some 3.5-inch Torx head screws to get this attached. Should be nice and strong for a playhouse. Now to get the top plate on the other side, I'm just going to scoot the whole unit down until I can access the other side. I'm going to repeat the same steps, matching up the marking there with the stud, and just using the same 3.5-inch screws to get this together. Now I'm going to use some Liquid Nails heavy-duty construction adhesive on the floor of the playhouse. The reason I'm doing this is because it helps keep the floor down, or keeps the wall down, but also helps to prevent any insects from getting up under here. So basically just going to be one little bead across the bottom here. Now I'm simply going to stand the wall up. And I'm going to pick it up and set it into position here. Now I want to make sure that it is flush against both sides here. Now a single wall like this is not very secure, so one of the extra boards that I cut off these 2-foot boards, I'm just going to use as a quick brace, just to prevent this from falling over with any kind of breeze or if somebody bumps into it. Now it's time to build the 2 side walls. I already have one installed as a reference, so let's go ahead and start on this second one over here. I've placed a 2x4 here for reference to get my 3.5 inches reduction that I need for the front wall. So I just want to find out the measurement between that 2x4 and the back wall, which just happens to be 59.25. I need 2 boards cut at 59.25 inches. This will be both the bottom and the top plate. And then I need 4 boards cut at 6 foot to make the walls. Okay, I have my top and bottom boards lined up with the 6-foot wall boards. And just like I did with the back, I'm going to line up the edges and then use some 3.5-inch Torx screws to get these put together. Now I'm just adding some of this construction adhesive here. I find this helps to prevent bugs and also just makes a better seal in general. I went both up the side wall and along the base here. Now let's go ahead and put this wall into place. This part is a little bit tricky. I want this spacer 2x4 to be here in the corner, but I've made it so that it's really tight. So what I'm going to do is stand it up and then put this in place to lock everything where I want it. Okay, let's see what this is going to do here. Okay, it's going to turn out pretty good there. So, I'm going to go ahead and get my impact driver and get this wall screwed down here. I went to my local resale store and purchased a window that is 64 by 22 inch. And so the front of my playhouse is going to be different from yours. I recommend going to Lowe's or Home Depot and finding a window that fits your needs and build the front wall of your playhouse to that window. But let's go ahead and get started with the cuts needed here. For my build, I need an 8-foot, a 6-foot, a 15-inch, 3 of them, 33-inch, 3 of them, 2 65-inch, 1 68-inch, and a 5-inch. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting those out of my material here. I've already got an 8-footer because that's how long these boards are. Move on to the 6-foot here. Need 4 of these. Because of space limitations, I've laid out the front wall here on the base, but it's not completely set up. So I'm just going to begin attaching this point down here and move along as I go. And the top board I'll have to put on separate whenever I have something to stand on. So what I have is a 68-inch board down here on the bottom, 33-inch boards here in the middle to support the window, and then 6 foot all the way up on the side. So I've got the 6 foot and the 33-inch board here on the edge. Go ahead and use some screws to get these installed. Okay, I have the bottom piece installed with the side supports that are 6 foot and then a couple of supports here with the 65-inch board in between and then some 13.5s up top. I had to cut them down another 1.5 inches because I need 22 inches between the window here. Now notice I don't have the top on yet. I'm going to go ahead and swing this into place, but first I need to build something over here that I did not calculate correctly. I should have extended this wall out all the way, but I didn't. So I'm going to come out a little bit at a 5-inch block here and put 2 6-footers on there, and that'll be just a little bitty tiny wall. And the 8-foot board right here will connect the full top all the way across to that piece there. Let's go ahead and get this tiny wall installed here. I'm going to lay down a layer of this caulking here. Now to get this wall in place, we should be good to go. Okay, now that I have the walls up, it's time to go ahead and put the top plate in place here. Now sadly I just dropped my impact driver. Okay, let's try that again. So sadly I did not get this wall over here quite where I wanted it, as far as the floor is a little bit bowed, but nothing I can do about that. Start over here. Okay, so I'm just going to put a screw in on this end to keep it in place. Well, that's going to conclude the wall installation of the playhouse here. Let me take you around real quick and show you what has been accomplished in this video. The first thing we got taken care of was the back wall, and it was very simple. 6-foot walls and 2-foot on center studs. And then we moved on to the 2 side walls and attached those with screws to the back wall there, making sure that things were flush with the back, and that helps to square things up a bit. I have a window here that's actually 25 inches that I'm going to be using some plexiglass later to have in there. So the front wall was the most challenging, and it's because I have this really big 64-inch by 22-inch window that I'm using. Now I left a pretty high space here in the front because I'm thinking a fold-up desk might be fun for when the kids get a little bit older. They might want to do some homework down here or something. And their Wi-Fi picks up from the house pretty good. The only real issue I had with the build was the door is only 25 inches, I think. And I did not quite measure well enough this gap between the base down here and the board. So I'm gonna just fill that with some construction adhesive and call it good. But the front porch works out really well, and it's going to be nice to have this big open window for lots of light. Thank you so much for watching this playhouse build video. I know it was a little touch and go here on this front wall, but it worked out pretty well. If you're going to be installing your own window, I do recommend that you take some measurements and get your own opening here for your custom window. I know 64 by 22 is kind of a large window, but I think it's going to work out well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.